Everyone's known a boy like Stanley Coopersmith.
Evilspeak.
He's the kid everyone used to pick on.
Screwed up for the last time, Cooper Dick.
Evilspeak.
You see, everyone thought Stanley was a joke. An outcast with no one to turn to.
You guys broke my catapult. You're gonna pay for that.
No one except man's most advanced machine.
Evilspeak.
Stanley used the power of man to call on the powers of evil.
Evilspeak.
I, Stanley Coopersmith, command you!
What's up, rotters, and welcome back to the podcast that takes a deep dive into the best and worst horror films of the 80s and 90s. I'm Stevie, your VHS veteran. For anyone listening for the first time, hello, I hope you're doing horrendously. In this podcast, we take a trip back to the cherished VHS stores of yesteryear and exhume all of those much forgotten horror movies. You know, the ones with amazing covers and awful content. I grew up devouring those beauties, and so I decided to dig them up and revisit them with various guests. My guests range from horror know-it-alls to horror not-it-alls, and occasionally the odd superstar just for fun, such as Elijah Wood, Jonathan Ross, Stephen Fry, Sophie Ellis-Bextor, and many more. So if you enjoy what you hear today, you've got a lot of catching up to do. Thank you to everyone who's bought one of our new VHS Brain Rot t-shirts. They are now on their way to you, all over the world, in fact. New Zealand, America, Australia, and hell. There are a handful left, and some sizes actually only have one left in stock, so if you want to grab one, head to steviesbrainrot.com and click on the store. Right then, this week, we're hitting up another video nasty in the form of 1981's Evilspeak, directed and co-written by Eric Weston of, well, Evilspeak fame, and starring horror royalty Clint Howard, with 250 credits to his name and counting. His performance in Evilspeak really shows why he stood the test of time. And I hate the term character actor, but if I had to define it, the answer would be Clint Howard. He is a true performer. Joining me to chat about this satanic tech Trashterpiece is a first-time guest who I'm so excited to have on the show. So excited, in fact, that I managed to record my audio through my headphones rather than the very expensive microphone. Again. But hey, who wants to listen to me when I have Jim of Jim'll Paint It fame, his sensational social media project in which he uses an old version of Windows Paint to create incredibly detailed, hilarious, and irreverent art is an internet sensation. And if you don't already know what I'm talking about, just head to jiml.co.uk, that's jimll.co.uk, to begin your new obsession. He's also a very keen VHS collector like me, and so the stars have aligned and brought me the perfect guest for the perfect movie. Jim, it's happened finally. Welcome.
Hey man, how's it going?
I'm really good. I'm stoked. I think this has been a long time coming, so it's good to have you here. And I know there's basically a petition online to get you on.
I don't know. I think it's because I've been doing a lot of like sort of horror stuff recently and like coming out of my shell a bit and sort of mingling with, horror film festivals and things. And it's just been nice to be part of that scene. And just being on a horror podcast has been on the bucket list for ages. So thank you so much for making it happen.
Oh, please, of course. And I feel great that I feel very special that I'm seeing your face because it feels like seeing Sia. Or well, I suppose Banksy's more appropriate. Actually,
oh God, no, not Banksy. Like it's the thing with it's that whole thing of like everyone's like, oh, he likes the anonymity. It's like it's more. I think Blind Boy's the same. He's got the bag on his head, and it's like he described it as like not anonymity, but just sort of like privacy, and that just sort of like, I'm a Z-list internet celebrity, but I'd still rather just be able to go to the shops and not have
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Yeah.
Sorry.
And it's so weird because obviously, well, not so much anymore, but wanting to be an actor when you grow up, that's one of the main things you want to be recognized everywhere. And now I can't stand it. Like if someone comes up to me and goes, "Were you in the In-Betweeners?" And that was 12 years ago.
Holy shit, man, you were in the In-Betweeners.
I was Alistair, the annoying wheelchair boy at the fashion show.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that. Oh my god, what a small world.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the one thing out of 30 years of acting, people always come up to me and go, "Where's your wheelchair?" Oh God. But now I totally understand that privacy and anonymity.
Yeah.
It's
well, for me, it's
very
just like
attractive.
Hey, Jim, paint this, and it's like
Yeah, well, of course, yeah. But since you're a first-time guest, I want to know your origin story. So when did you? Because I know you're into VHS and stuff like me. When did you realise that the sort of genre films did it for you?
I mean, like as far back as I can remember, I think the first film I ever saw is like way back when there used to be a few horror films that people's parents always liked, and it was like The Omen and like Halloween and stuff like that. And I just all of those films for as far back as I can remember, like I was watching those and loving them. I remember like we had The Omen recorded off the TV, me and my brother. I must have been like 7, and we just like, and he was like not much older, like 10. The decapitation scene, just like rewinding that.
Yeah, of course.
Again. So like a gorehound, you can edit.
Ooh, oh, fam.
Freudian slip.
What would Freud say about that?
Yeah, a gorehound from the off. Sure.
There we go. Yeah, I can't believe it. I watched The Omen for the first time. I tweeted about it about 2 weeks ago. I nearly got cancelled because of it. I didn't say anything inappropriate. I mean, just because I hadn't seen it before. Yeah, and it blew my mind. And I'm actually very glad sometimes that there are these iconic horror films that I haven't watched, because I can watch them in 30 years and it's still incredible. So there's still something to look forward to. Yeah.
I mean, I was like I had a few of those. I think I'm gradually clearing up all the big ones. I think the last like big one that I saw was Eyes Without a Face, which was like last month. Like finally got around to that one. And then before that, it was like I actually saw Rosemary's Baby like only 5 years ago, which is crazy.
Right.
And I absolutely loved it. But yeah, other than that, like I think I've seen most of the big ones now. But it's so nice if you find a classic and you've not seen it. I mean, what a joy! I wish I could just sort of compartmentalize some of my brain and just delete some of the data and start afresh.
Yeah, because you get jealous sometimes when someone's watching something for the first time that you love, because you go back to that place. It's amazing. So I also want to ask about the Microsoft Paint thing. Where did this come about? Because obviously it's absolutely huge now, and your presence, while there isn't online, is really big. And did it start just for fun, or to be silly, or for a friend?
Yeah, no. So it started for friends. It was I was basically bored on my lunch break. I was doing a job that was just moving large blocks of text around, doing reference books, and I had the computers we were using were just, even for the time, which was 10 years ago, like ridiculously outdated. And it had like an old version of Microsoft Paint. I was like, does anyone want me to, paint something for them? And my friends, being, a bit odd, were requesting things like Anne Widdecombe riding Space Mountain, or, I think one of them was like an anthropomorphic New York skyline battling a religiously fanatical prawn and stuff like that. This was like the very first ever ones. And it just got I think it actually got slightly less weird. And as I sort of realised that it's nice to have an actual joke in there somewhere. But I had about sort of 10 or 15 pieces, put them on an old website called beta.com to see if anyone would like them. And then I gave it like a really inappropriate name. This was just like about the year after U-Tree. And I called it Jim Will Paint It, thinking that about 100 people might see it and it would be forgotten. Right. And then it just blew up overnight. And then I had like hundreds of requests to paint. And it's been going ever since. So,
yeah, it's great. I love all of your stuff, and I love that you get people to come up with the ideas, because it's a great way of sort of opening up that relationship between the artist and the viewer, I suppose.
And it saves me having to think about anything.
Well, yeah, and that. Yeah.
I'm just be really lazy. I'm like, what now?
Yeah, but also it does my head in. Like, I know people just, as soon as you post something new, sometimes even in the comments, people go, "Oh, you can buy this here," where they've just literally copied the picture and then put it on TeePublic.
That's quite a new thing. That's like a fresh. And we've had if you're sort of in the last couple of years, you've had that whole thing, which is just bots just ripping your artwork and just showing it on t-shirts. I've had people email me saying that the quality's terrible and that they're getting bombarded with emails. I'm like, you bought that off a different website.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And then you've had obviously NFTs and AI art. It's like it's been quite a stressful few years to just be an online artist, for sure.
Yeah, the internet is something else now, and that's why I think today's film is quite quite a perfect choice.
I was so happy when you told me what it was.
No, it's great. So we're going to be talking about Evilspeak from 1981, directed by Eric Weston. So what's your relationship with this? How many times you've seen it, and when did you first see it?
This was actually only my second watch. I started collecting old VHS tapes like not too long ago, maybe like 2 years. I started basically when it was COVID and I couldn't go traveling. I was like, what do I spend my spare money on? And it went from traveling around to just buying videotapes and just trying to get the rare ones, trying to get all like the banned video nasties and stuff like that. So this was one that I got quite early on. This one I picked up, like a lot of those video nasties are going for like 3 figures, but this one I picked up for not too much. And I'd never seen it before. I loved the cover. And I'd seen a lot of the, like the crazy computer graphics, which for me is like one of the big draws of this film, by the way. I'd seen some of those. There's an artist called VHS Head who has an insane... do you know him? Okay.
Yeah, I know. That was ringing a bell.
So he basically has this enormous like video collection, like insane. Like all 4 walls of his room are just like covered in like really good videos. And he like uses these videos to create like electronic music, sort of Boards of Canada, Aphex Twin, but different to that, but along those lines. And it's just really good. And then for his live shows, he projects images from the videotapes that he sampled, and that was the first time I'd seen any of Evilspeak, because he was just using all these like crazy pentagrams swirling around and stuff, and I was like, I need to see this movie. What is this movie? And so I got that VHS tape, and that was my first watch, and I love it. I really do love this film, like unironically so.
Yeah, so do I actually, and it's only the second time I've watched it as well, because, as you mentioned, it got caught up in the video nasties, and it was banned for a long time, and I think it was not fully available until the 2000s or something, like 2004 or something ridiculous like that. And what a time! But of course, that makes us want to watch it even more, because we want to know what the hell it was, and it was. Obviously, the Satanism was a massive thing. That was a massive deal then, because we were in a very conservative time. Not we are now as well. And also Anton LaVey, who ran the Satanic Church and wrote the Satanic Bible, he loved it, and he was open about loving the film.
It was like recommended viewing for Satanists at one point. I'm like, I told my girlfriend Charlotte this, and because she loves like witchcraft and Satanism, and like not like she's not Satanist or anything, she just likes the sort of mythology of it. I told her that, and she's like, that kind of makes the Satanists seem a bit lame. Like,
I know,
sort
because
of
it's a fictional movie.
Yeah, it's this kind of ridiculous film about a boy that uses an Apple II computer to summon demons. It's crazy.
Yeah, it'd be like the Pope endorsing Passion of the Christ or something.
yeah, exactly. Go watch this. Essential.
Go and watch that. Yeah, it's so bizarre. So let's talk about it a bit. What would you say to someone if they say, "What's it about?"
So, I mean, I did write a little synopsis for you, because I know.
Oh, yes.
So I'll go.
Amazing.
I'll try.
You've listened to this show.
Big fan. So, Stanley Cooper Smith is the least popular boy at West Andover Military Academy, mercilessly bullied by his teachers and fellow cadets alike. One evening, while punitively banished to the chapel cellar, he stumbles into a secret room and finds a book of black magic written some centuries earlier by a satanic priest. Using an Apple II computer and a ridiculous amount of candles, Cooper Smith reawakens the ancient dark forces buried beneath the academy in order to unleash deadly retribution on those that wronged him, which is basically everyone.
Yeah. It's I describe it as Carrie meets John Wick.
Yes,
It's
one of my notes was just Carrie, like in massive letters.
Yeah, because even the people that out of a bad bunch, even the people that do help, or like the cook, someone who is nice, they do just like everyone gets it in the end. It's like, I've had enough.
What did happen to the cook? I'm sorry, I know we get a bit ahead of ourselves, but like, what did actually happen to the cook?
I'm sure he's one of the people that had his head chopped.
Oh yeah, probably.
I think so. I'm pretty sure, yeah, because I definitely remember seeing him die, and it is definitely spurred on by the death of the dog. That's where the John Wick comes in. So that's how I think if they ever do a good Blu-ray release, that's how they should sell it. It's great. That's really straightforward, and actually it makes you realize, everything is a little bit convenient in this, isn't it? Like finding the room and everything's there ready. Like even the bit when we'll come to it, I'll list them because I loved all the ingredients to make it.
That was so good.
But then every single one is just in stock on the wall in the same room. Great. Except
for the blood, obviously, and like the computer just sort of sat there demanding blood. It reminded me of American Psycho when the ATM machine is like demanding that you feed to the kitten. I'm like, and it made me think: is this all in his head? Like, is he just losing the plot?
Yeah, is it one of those? I think there is a dream sequence, which I'm not a fan of, and listeners of the show know that I hate a dream sequence. But actually, this one is good because it's more of a visit or a premonition. The opening, though, of these sort of Spanish Inquisition time, it's just bizarre because you've got this lady being sacrificed by Lorenzo Esteban, and she's wearing nothing but a bad wig.
No, it's crazy. And what's other than the bad wig? This whole beginning sequence feels like a completely different film. You got like a Khalil Gibran quote at the start, and then you've got like this subtitled sequence on the beach. It looks kind of classy, and like you're like, whoa, this looks like an art house film or something.
Yeah, it does. It feels like it feels very 70s actually, and actually it could be quite off-putting because you think, I don't think this is going to go in the direction I think. But then we're in the present day and we meet Cooper Smith.
But what a cut to the present day. The decapitated head flying off and then a football flying through the air. It's brilliant. It's like, Kubrick would be proud of that.
Yes, they love the decapitation in this, don't they? And it almost looks like they use the same dummy each time, but just change the wig.
Put the head back on.
Just screw it back on. But Cooper Smith, Clint Howard. Are you a fan? I mean, he's one of those people that we know, and I feel like no one other than horror fans know because he's been in so much you forget.
Yeah. I mean, I was like trying to think what I've actually seen him in. Like, it's such a familiar face. I'm just like, I've actually not done my IMDb research on this one, so fill me in.
Well, I mean, for me, my favourite, because he's the proper sort of evil lead, is Ice Cream Man, where he plays a killer ice cream man, which is fantastic. But also he's in like Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 4, and there's lots of... He's in so many. Honestly, his IMDb is ridiculous. He puts any Scream Queen to shame. It's amazing. But he's obviously he's young in this, but I've never seen him look under 30.
No, he's got the cold, dead eyes of... I mean, what I really love about this film, actually, is the way he's portrayed is... It's kind of like... I mean, I had a terrible time at school, right? So I kind of like any film where people are getting bullied and then get retribution. I'm like, I'm totally on board with that. But like often with these films, they make the person getting bullied this kind of like kind of awesome and nice and like cool, and you're like, why does everyone hate this person? Like you look at like Stranger Things kids or whatever, they're just these like charming people. Whereas like Cooper Smith is like, he's really awkward. He's got no social skills. And it's like, that's a much more like realistic way of like people that actually got like flack at school would have been. I think he plays it really well.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And to that, what I think is really nice and something you never saw in early 80s male leads in horror films, he's emotional. Like he cries a lot and he's sensitive in this. And they go there. And the director, Eric, they must have had an arrangement, but he would get him into those states by screaming at him and calling him names and bullying him. Like if there were members of crew and people who didn't know, and they were getting ready to step in and go, "Whoa, leave the kid alone! What's going on?" But they had an agreement where that he would push him really to the limit.
No, because like the second 45 minutes of the film, he's basically constantly teetering on the brink of tears. And it's
Yeah,
just
he's a
like, it
mess.
just makes the whole thing just sort of ramp up in sort of tension. It's really well done.
Yeah, and they're playing soccer, but I'm like, I am
Soccer, yeah,
not a
sorry.
sportsman, but is soccer played in 4 quarters? I don't. That's what the coach says. I
I
feel
mean,
like it's not.
maybe in America that's how they do it. I don't know.
No,
No,
I don't
I think
know.
that's just a lack of. I don't think anyone that's
Yeah,
actually played soccer there. And they're just like, right, that sounds about right.
yeah, no, I think that's what it is. You know, so he conveniently finds the loose brick, obviously,
Mhm.
and goes into the dungeon that's all set up, ready. Do we ever find out why the crazy sergeant is down there?
Oh, the general from Predator.
Yes, yes, from Predator, yeah,
Yeah, what?
and Children of the Corn.
Yeah. He's a legend. No, I have no idea what he's. What I mean, is he like a
Right.
caretaker or what?
Well, they call him Sarge, so
But he's just like
and
lives.
he's just constantly drinking.
He's like an
Maybe he's
alcoholic
like
that they just
an,
let live down there, kind of thing.
yeah, maybe he's just like, we can't let you teach the kids anymore, but you can stay in the grounds. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. A bit of a Cropsy vibe to that guy.
Yes, yeah. The actual chamber, obviously, the set where they do it, though, I think it's really great. It's gothic, it's atmospheric. It does feel much more sort of 70s. But I completely buy it. And in this point in horror, as it was really about to change into the slashers, it just hits differently, I think. And I mean, I didn't veer off. My mind didn't veer off once. I was completely with it, and I thought it was really, really well structured.
Yeah, no, it's funny you should mention the sort of gothic nature of the cellar, which, because yeah, you're right. Like post '82, you didn't really gothic was completely out, really, wasn't it? It was all about high schools.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this is in a school, but like it was always a very different sort of, or summer camps or any of that sort of stuff. To have this
Yeah,
sort of
exactly.
quite gothic feel, and with all that, like who is lighting all these candles? I mean, like
I
the first time you see like this room full of candles, I was like, who is lighting this? And then it turns out to be a dream, and I was like, right, that makes sense because.
Yes.
But then they're all lit again later on when it's real life.
Okay. There are a couple of moments where things are just unexplained, but you don't really mind. It's quite amusing to question it, of course. Does he? Well, that's the thing. He gets locked in there, but then that turns out to be the dream. But yet he has taken the book out with him. So I'm not sure what was real and what wasn't. So he definitely did go down there and did find the book. Where did he fall asleep?
Well, the book's a weird one because the book can magically transport itself as well. Remember, we later learned.
That's true.
So maybe it just
like Hocus Pocus
transported itself to him and was like, right, you need to do my bidding.
Yeah, well, we have to talk about the computer because that's when it makes its appearance, and it is a big feature in this film. Did you say it was an Apple II?
It is an Apple II, yeah. I think like
Macintosh,
really,
is that?
Yeah. So it's like it was quite a popular computer at the time. So I can't but I don't know what they've made the graphics on. The graphics remind me. I can't remember the name of the thing. I should have looked it up. But do you know like all those early 80s idents that you get at the start of videos where it's like kind of like there'll be one or two coloured graphics that will overlap like all of these sort of like amazing graphics are that kind of thing, but instead of like company logos they're like pentagrams and naked women and upside down crosses and stuff. It's just amazing. But obviously those I don't think those graphics would have been able to appear on an Apple II. I think they're sort of superimposed.
No, of course not. And of course this must have been pretty state of the art. And especially, obviously, they were heightening it and making it look like it can do more than it can. I mean, it translates from the book really, really well. And considering today, Google Translate is a shit show.
Yeah. This nails Latin, especially. Google Translate in Latin does not. It just doesn't work. It's just, of all the languages, that's the one that just can't do.
It was an incredible system. This one. What was your first computer system? Did you have Atari?
I didn't know. So I was actually my dad had Windows 95, and that was basically it. I just used to sneak onto his computer and play whatever small. Like I didn't even have a console until much later on. I made up for it now. But my dad was very much encouraged me to sort of play with Lego and do things with my hands rather than play video games. But whenever I went around to my mum's house, I would just like cram in as many video games as possible and playing with my computer and stuff. But Windows 95, and that's when I started playing with Microsoft Paint as well.
On Paint?
Yeah,
of course. Oh, I loved it. I used to love that. I remember the first time we got a proper PC. Maybe it must have been I think it probably was Windows 95. And the first time we got the internet, and I just printed out pictures of the Spice Girls because they had a website, and I used all of the ink in one day, and that was the first thing I did. Just
which was your Spice Girl?
It was Jerry. It changed around a lot, but I think it was always Jerry.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. The bit, did you see the bit when the boys? I'm going to call them the Bad Cadets, which sounds like an Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn film, but they're sort of bullying him in the corridor, and it's the slippiest corridor you've ever seen. Their feet are all over the place. It's like Run the Risk. It's ridiculous. You can tell that it's the actors actually trying to stay up.
That. That's amazing.
Maybe it's to try and stop them running.
Yeah. Like all of the everyone in this is so horrible to him, and they're all just like really nasty looking people as well. You know, they're like the haircuts and just the way they sort of their snarling faces. Like they're all just monsters. Like there's not one nice character in this at all, really, except for the cook.
Yeah, it's really except for the cook and the one African American guy
who
just doesn't get a look in, trying to help him. The first time we see him cry is when he's getting a good hiding, but it's before that, before he gets spanked or whipped. I just think this is when I really looked at this film differently, because there's some truth there. And I know we're talking about a video nasty that was banned, but I think Clint Howard just brings such a truth to it and layers. And I just completely bought into it by this point.
No, I agree. Like the way that he interacts with the teachers, there's that sort of thing of like, there's that mix of like fear and just injustice. You can
and
just
disrespect.
Yeah.
And that.
Like he's never one of these people that just sort of like whimpers when he's getting bullied. He just sort of says like, "I'm going to get you for this," sort of thing, and then storms off. And then they're sort of mocking him for it. He never sort of, I don't know. He doesn't sort of shy. It doesn't shy away from it. No. It's I really do rate him in this a lot. And like you said, I mean, I know it's not like an Oscar-winning film or anything.
Yeah, of course.
It's still like a trashy like video nasty, but like I just think
it's just the fact that it's in there at all that
for sure. That's the thing. It's like some video nasties and like some of these like a lot of the films that you cover are done with a tongue firmly in cheek, and I feel like there's a real earnestness to this film which endears it to me a lot. I really like it,
and I think it makes me wonder if there's a part of it that's what made it part of the video nasty scandal, because it feels real, and that's why they were like, this does feel truthful, and Satan is involved. No, exactly. But we meet the receptionist, who has quite the story arc, and she's got the book because he dropped it, and she's trying to pick off the emblem, and then we meet the devil pigs. What do you think about them? Makes me furious.
Yeah, that was a. It's like, where do we first meet the pigs? Because because he's sent to like clean up the pigs, right? So he's kind of got this. Yeah. I don't know whether he like telepathically connects Satanism onto the pigs or whatever, but then they become these sort of like do his evil bidding for him throughout the rest of the film, and
it makes you wonder if her doing that suddenly turns the pigs as conduits for the devil, or if those pigs are just lying dormant, evil pigs who are just waiting for someone to find the book and fuck with it. So that family of pigs over the generations have the evil within them. I think it's that.
Oh, for sure, yeah. That's a much more satisfying story arc. But like, I always forget about this bit, and then it's probably the most brutal part of the film, I think, because there's like the fact that she's like in the shower. It's kind of like the shower scene of the film. And there's that sort of vulnerability, and then you've got just like these, is it 4 or 5 like huge hogs, just like ripping it to pieces. Is your version? I don't know if my version was cut, because I've got like the original VHS tape, but I know they pre-cut some of them to avoid censorship. I saw with that moment. It's very funny though, because I was like, oh, for God's sake, they're getting her naked, because she undresses while sat down, leaves her clothes in the living room, then goes to the bathroom, and it's all very male gaze. But I was watching an interview with her, and the actual part called for complete nudity, and so she decided to go and get a really nice thong that was like diamante and shiny, and then this sheer red slip, and she went to the audition in that, and she just stripped in front of them in the audition during the scene, which wasn't, I don't think it was. So she's just determined to get her clothes off, like at any cost.
Yeah, and so she did it down, and then just left on the G-string, and they were all like, "Oh, wow, that was great." And she goes, "See, you don't need full nudity."
Oh, I like it.
So apparently, they were like, "Yeah, fine,
Yeah.
just do what you did." So, I mean, you never know how embellished those stories
yeah.
are, but I quite like that. But yeah, so
With the cut though, I didn't know if it was the actual gore cut at the end, because like it's a really weird cut on mine where it's like it cuts to the book fading away, and then it cuts back to her getting like ripped up, and it's like a half-second bit of pig taking a bit of intestine or something. You don't even see it. It's like, did I just see that? And I was just wondering if that's like an actual cut thing that's on the Blu-ray.
Yeah, no, it is. So so they're attacking her in the bath, and it's kind of over. We go away. Then, as you say, it comes back for one moment where it's just like sort of snapping an intestine. Right. And but to get them to do all that, they filled fake body parts with grenadine so that was for the blood, and then they poured apple juice all over it. So nice. The pigs were just chewing at it and then exploding. But obviously there was loads more footage which is destroyed and gone now that we'll never be able to see, of them just chowing down on loads of innards. I really wish we still had that.
Yeah.
But when she's determined though, isn't she, with that emblem? Because she tries it at the office, she takes it home, she's going to get it off. And yes, I get it though, because I'm the same. Well, especially when I was younger, I was like a magpie for anything cool and sparkly, and I ruined several items as a kid. And this just reminded me of it, because I remember I ripped off, and this is really bad, I ripped off an ornamental knob on the end of a friend's banister at the bottom of the stairs, and I pocketed it and thought they wouldn't notice because it was kind of bejeweled and silver. And of course,
I got the thing in the middle of their house.
Yeah, right. The thing they hang things on. Yes. So yeah, that was. I didn't rip it off, as in with
just sort of
with the wood. I mean, I unscrewed it. Yeah. So I had to return that. And also, my mum had this pair of jeans. I think they were Levi's, 80s Levi's, late 80s, and the the back pocket had this kind of silver medallion on it with a blue plastic gemstone in the middle. And I would see her walking around, and I was just mesmerised by it. And so one day I thought that will be mine, but I couldn't pry it off, and so I resorted to cutting around it with a pair of scissors.
Wow.
Hoping she wouldn't notice again, but of course there's a big circular hole in the back of her jeans, and she wasn't best pleased about that. I think even when we moved house eventually, my parents, I remember they told me this years later, they found a stash of missing knickknacks in a box under my bed, like ornate perfume bottles. Yeah, like a nest, like a magpie's nest, basically. And so I totally get it with her, the persistence to get that thing off.
Yeah, she's got under her bed, she's just got loads of like bits that she's peeled off books and
from students. Yeah, no, I was an unorthodox thief.
Yeah.
But he set up the computer in the dungeon, and this is when we get the list, because he says, "What do I need for a black mass?" And I was wondering, at this point, do you think he knows why he's doing it? Is he hell bent on revenge, or is it just curiosity?
It feels like curiosity, because it's kind of, I don't know. He can't surely know that what's going to happen.
No,
there's no sort of thing of, it says I will return. It's almost like the computer tells him to do stuff, and he just sort of just does it. It's like, and it's like, you must bring me, what is it, like
it's mandrake root, juice of aconite, poplar leaves, arsenic, sulfur, black candles, unholy water, aka water, and blood of consecrated host. I love that.
I'm hoping you've just got that memorised, right? You're not reading that.
I know. I haven't got it written down. Yeah, no, but all of that is so doable, and then you get to the last one. It's like, damn, blood of a consecrated host.
And then he has that weird thing where like they play a trick on him with the pig masks, and so he believes that he has actually summoned demons. But then for some reason he still tries to do it more. It's so weird.
That's one of the moments I was talking about.
Yeah, I was like, well, that would surely be like, oh, I've done it now, so why do I need to keep doing?
Yes.
To be honest, that middle, there's like a end of the second act, beginning of the third act. I completely lose track of his motivation.
Yes.
I completely lose track.
Because then he's crying over puppies.
Exactly. It's all just going a bit fast, and I'm like, well, hang on a minute. Like you said, where does just him going through the motions end, and like him actually realizing what's happening and following through with his retribution begin? It's all just like a big. It just sort of escalates, especially because like the bullies end up going down, and this is a real sort of like Carrie moment as well, where they sort of like go into his sort of what's now become his sort of lair.
His lair.
And he's got like a little dog down there. There's Fred the dog, and they're sort of like torturing this dog. They kill the dog, right? They murder the dog. They murder Fred.
I wasn't okay with that at all, because not obviously they do the killing off screen, but you can see that the dog is in distress.
Yeah, it's not cool.
And they're like pinning it down.
I'm hoping that what we see is what I'm hoping all that was filmed. And
yes, me too. Because there's even a moment with a pig where I was like, you're being a bit rough with it. I mean,
it's I hate to say it, and like obviously it's awful to see, and I don't agree with it. But when you've watched this many sort of 80s, especially Italian stuff, I mean, like video nasties in general, it's like you've always got a moment.
You have to grow thick skin.
Sake. Yeah. I watched
you really do.
Wake in Fright, the Australian film recently.
For the 70s, the early 70s.
Yeah, the early 70s. Like the kangaroos being shot left, right, and centre. I went, bloody hell.
No. See, I haven't seen it, and I don't think I could. Yeah. I've never seen the full Hannibal Collar.
Yeah, because there's the cut now. There's the cut without the animal cruelty, and
that's
when I watch that again, I will watch the Blu-ray that has that cut on it instead of the VHS. Although the VHS is like one of my most prized possessions, but I don't think.
I saw. I just love the cover. That original cover of this sort of the cartoon person ripping the guts. So good.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I was a little bit confused about the blood of consecrated host, because
I think it's blood and consecrated host, isn't it? Isn't it like a list like blood of? I don't know, because it's like blood, and then the consecrated host is like a cracker or something, isn't it?
Underneath. Right, I see. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because he goes and gets the Jesus wafer. That makes sense. It's not blood of. Yes. Oh, yeah, because of course the puppy blood doesn't do it, because it's saying human blood.
Yeah, human blood. It's like, trick. Wish I told you that in the first place.
Yes. Just be really more. You've got nothing else to do.
I know.
Except give instructions. Just be really clear.
Just do your thing.
I also love that they've got in this church upstairs, not even the hidden bit, they've got a portrait of Lorenzo, the famously exiled Satanist from Spanish history. Why is it there?
Who painted this? So I'm a bit confused, because like the beginning scene takes place in Spain or in America?
Spain.
In Spain. So then he comes to America to flee the Inquisition, and then sets up this military academy. Or sets up the church that becomes attached. I don't really know the history of it.
But that's the thing. This portrait, it's there. They must know his history. It's right next to Christ. I don't know. It makes you think someone else is going to be in on it, and actually they'll be so happy that Clint Howard's brought him back, and that was the ruse all along, and it's the evil German priest or the evil German soldier, which is another crazy character. I don't know. But yeah, it's just one of those things that every time they focused on, I was like, why is that in the church? It's very much weird. A famous Satanist.
known. It was like known Satanist for sure. And next to Jesus is like, yeah.
Yeah. When he's down there and Sarge, the drunken Sarge, there's a line he says that made me very uncomfortable, because I wasn't sure what he meant. So he goes to break the puppy's neck. This is jumping back a bit. And Clint Howard's down there. And he says to him, I'll show you how I make a little boy into a little girl.
Yeah, I think that's what it sounds like.
Am I reading into that, or is it? Yeah.
No, I think that's it's pretty grim.
Okay. Right, fair enough. I wasn't sure.
No, he's a wrong
one.
I mean, I don't think he's supposed to be like a nice character to begin with, and then obviously goes from bad to worse.
The computer sorts him out.
Yeah, the computer sorts him out, and then he becomes like a sort of zombie.
I have no idea. Yeah, he's back, and he's reanimated and doing the devil's work. But I love that the computer snaps his neck as the way he was going to. But also the computer's already very powerful, considering there's two more ingredients.
Yeah, it's just flexing. It's just like getting warmed up. It's like, the mandrake root is just like whet my appetite, and I'm just start snapping some necks, and then, if you give me some blood, I'll start some decapitations for you.
Yeah, I also love that they never really, when he finds the puppy's remains, and he's just sat on the giant crucifix coffin, and no one ever really addresses it. It's just there, and it bursts into fire.
Yeah, but that's in the secret room, isn't it? So I don't know. Is anyone else?
Well, no,
it's full of skeletons.
I suppose.
Yeah, so I think this is his little sanctuary where he can go and cry about his dog on a big giant crucifix.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, no, I'll give him that one. But it's towards the end now, and
the weirdest
thing,
the German guy. I was going to say, like, the way he dies is unreal. Like, so Cooper Smith, like the German guy comes down to his lair, and Cooper Smith, like, just in a rage, just kills him. But the way he does it is, he picks him up, like, somehow. I don't know where he's got this superhuman strength suddenly when he's like, can't do anything else. And then just launches him at like a chandelier, which has spikes coming down. And the guy sort of like sticks to the spikes on the I had to rewind it because I was like, surely that's like upside down or something. He's fallen on a table.
Yeah, no, he's up there. I'm going to put it down to, the way they say, like, grief and trauma can make you lift up a car if someone's stuck underneath it. So I'm going to say, because of the puppy, he gets this moment of super strength. Yeah, his John Wick moment. And he throws him and sticks him to the ceiling. But then I love how casually he just uses the stream of blood to fill up the the chalice.
Yeah. I don't know if because he couldn't have been thinking about that when it was pure rage.
No, that wasn't the plan.
He flipped straightly from pure rage to like being quite pragmatic and being like, right, let's use this opportunity.
We get a lot of awesome computer graphics now, though. There's one moment where we see the sort of digital outline of Lorenzo, and it looks just like. Did you ever play Atmosphere?
Yes, it looks.
It looks like the gatekeeper. I am the gatekeeper. Looks just like him.
And then we get some sort of like 2001 Space Odyssey kind of Starfield stuff, but with like naked ladies and like spinning pentagons.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
What I thought was super weird is he transforms into Lorenzo, which is a really good effect, I think.
Yeah.
The way,
nice
because it looks
overlay.
seamless. It doesn't look like composite. He's American.
Yeah. Maybe
Lorenzo
he was in
Esteban.
America for long enough to just sort of take
No, come on, Jim.
Yeah, it's
Stop filling the plot
error,
holes.
possibly deliberate by the film crew or whatever it is.
Yeah.
No. Okay, we'll have to concede defeat on that one. Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, a very, very Omen moment when I really like it when you see the Jesus crucifix statue start to become slightly organic and just shoots a rivet into the priest's head.
Oh yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, like this whole the bit from him throwing the German guy onto the spike chandelier through to the graphics, and then this end thing. I mean, this is
Nicolas Cage and Mandy.
Yeah, it's so good. Like I could happily just watch this last like 15 minutes just on repeat. It goes wild. So yeah, the guy, is it it's the chaplain, right? Who's giving the speech.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing all these like tortured religion sport metaphors. It's like, remember the referee you really want to impress is like the guy up in the sky. And it's like, I just love listening to him sort of like stretch this on long enough so that the Jesus sculpture can sort of come to life enough to throw a crucifixion nail at his head.
Fucking great.
I'm just wondering like how weird that sentence is for anyone who's not seen this film. That must.
And just leave it like that. Leave it into their head ambiguously. But yeah, I just love it. It's iconic, this moment where Cooper just, by the power of Grayskull, just gets his sword and floats up into the sky. Now, obviously, you watched it on VHS, so I'm assuming you couldn't see the strings and all that because you very much can on them.
Oh, really? Oh, can you?
Yeah, and that's why a lot of those films don't need the 4K treatment.
I'll tell you this,
because there's so many little moments.
So you couldn't see the strings, but I'll tell you what else you couldn't see is anything in the cellar.
Oh, really? Was it really dark?
Yeah. Any like these like pitch black scenes on VHS, you're just like, what? I'm like cranking up the brightness on my TV, and it's just getting more grey.
Oh, fuck! But it's
magic.
It's the true way to do it. Yeah, it's a small price to pay. But it's I just love this ending. It's absolute chaos. He's chopping heads off left, right, and centre. The pigs are bursting through doors. They're eating people's arms off and innards.
Someone gets like their head cleaved in two, which is a great effect. That's classic. A really good one. And then someone burns to death, like with like it stays on him for like way longer than you usually see someone in those sort of like heat-proof suits. I was like, well, Jesus.
The cadet boys, the actors, they were saying that all the fear is real in these last scenes because the set was just chaos and it was on fire. And it wasn't very well controlled. They would literally just go, get a lighter, light something. Okay, get ready. Okay, act. And they'd be like, fuck! Just running from fire.
Yeah.
And a crazy man swinging around on a wire with a fucking sword. But it's such a bizarre moment when Bubba, who's the main evil...
The one who looks a bit like a young Prince Charles.
Yes.
Yeah, that one.
Very much so. Yeah, Sarge rips his heart out.
It's like beating still. Like, it's great.
It's wonderful. And that's it. That's the crazy... And what I love about it is we get a little written epilogue, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, I would like to, because, again, on the VHS, I couldn't see any of that.
Oh, okay. So basically, it says that Coppersmith was the sole survivor of this tragic accident, and due to trauma has had some sort of mental shock. Okay. And so he's been transferred into an asylum. And so he was the sole survivor, and he witnessed all of his friends perish after this tragic accident. I thought, tragic accident? Like, did they look at the bodies? Because there'll be hearts missing, arms chewed off, heads split in two, satanic paraphernalia, hordes of dead pigs. And that's not a fire.
No. Yeah, like, why is this crucifix nail in this guy's head? Like, no one's asking questions like this. Maybe it all just melted. I don't know.
That's the only other explanation.
But yeah, no, it's weird. And the whole thing of him being the sole survivor and then sort of having to be committed plays into did he just lose his mind, basically? Did
he kill everyone?
I mean, I know that's a bit of a cheap sort of like way of looking at these sorts of films, but like with the parallels to sort of the American Psycho thing with like when you've got a computer literally telling you what to, what to give it blood and stuff, you're just like, that's not normal.
Especially because even within the world of the movie, it doesn't make sense. So that makes you question that. But I do really enjoy, and I suppose it's in that sort of... Although Carrie dies, apart from the hand coming out at the end, but it doesn't have... take away the written moment. It doesn't have a sort of resolve, and it leaves you questioning your own morals, because you're like, I'm kind of glad everyone's dead, and I'm glad he's
the cook and the puppy is
done that.
His mate who weirdly enough, his mate actually, you think he's going to be sort of by his side throughout and sort of, but there's like 2 scenes and then he just sort of fizzles out. You don't really see him.
I thought that was very strange, and apparently it was a bit of a cameo. That guy was I think he was in a big soap or something, but I thought that was really odd because they set him up like he's going to be I've forgotten the character's name, but just like in Carrie, the only one that sees the real him and doesn't bully him, and it doesn't come full circle. It's introduced and then just they get the pigs in, basically.
One thing we didn't talk about is the awful Miss Heavy Artillery scene.
Oh my God! Well, I think I deliberately said that.
One of the other things is like, I mean, there's this awful like beauty pageant, and it's like they're like, oh yeah, she's 16 years old and a great cook and all this. It's like I was just like, this in my mouth, like, oh my God.
Miss Heavy Artillery.
Yeah. And then like he goes backstage and like talks to the loser and was like, I think you should have won. And then he gets like humiliated in front of like this girl, and that just seems to be the sole point of that. But yeah, that's one of the most dated scenes.
Yes, it really is. And that was the one where apparently the director Eric was really screaming at him and with his pants off and making a fool of him, saying horrible things, and that's why he's all teary.
Because even when he just goes up to sort of speak to her before it's happened, you can tell there's like really like he's on like an emotional 11,
Yes, definitely. What a mental film. But I think it is, even though we've drawn a bunch of comparisons, in the time period that it's from, it feels really original to me. And I know that sounds silly after saying, oh, this is like that and that and that. But it feels refreshing, and I think grounding it with a character that we warm to and like and get behind just makes it stand out for me when you look at a lot of the other nasties.
I'd say it's my favourite of the slightly lesser known video nasties. So like, you know, obviously Zombie Flesh Eaters and Cannibal Holocaust are just better films, but like this is like, I don't know, it's just got a real, like it is unique because although it's got the parallels to, you know, Carrie and things like that, it just has a completely different tone and a real sort of like earnestness that you don't usually see in films that go as hard as this, I guess. Yeah,
and it feels like it's for adults.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. It reminded me in tone of like I can never say it, Anthropophagus.
Yes, Anthropophagus. Anthropophagus.
Yeah, it has a similar sort of just gnarly, grimy, like unpleasant tone to it. Kind of dangerous almost, you know. It's yeah. I can totally see why it got banned, but equally, when you look at it now, you're like, I mean, it's not. It's pretty tame compared to today's standards, but it just has that
it's not the worst. And I don't know, there's lots of the stuff about the military and Satanism, and there's definitely some comments on America in there. But of course you can watch it just surface, but it's also not one of those films that feels like they're trying to be worthy and trying to make a message. I mean, I just love that it
does have that whole thing of you know, that the world that Cooper Smith exists in is one of evil, really. And like that Gibran quote at the start, you know, about sort of, I think it's something along the lines of, you know, without, Satan says to like a holy man, like, without me, you know, what would your job be, essentially? Like what? And you know, that thing of like, he exists in a completely evil world, and evil is able to thrive. But then, I mean, it just, like you said, there's so many points in this film where it sets itself up to do something and then just doesn't really go there. It just
yeah. But it does depict that thing of, you know, especially late 70s and early 80s, where boys were just being prepared to fight. That's because, you know, coming out of Vietnam and all that, and there's a lot. I always say every horror film in the 80s is about Vietnam, and a lot of them are. But it's that thing of always fighting. It's about fighting an enemy, isn't it? And it's preparing everyone for this is what life will be. But then, he calls up the proper enemy in the form of the devil. I last thing before I go, do you think at the end, when he's completed the sort of the list of things he has to do for the Black Mass, do you think Cooper is in control or Lorenzo is in control?
No, I feel like if we're to take the narrative as this has actually happened and isn't all in his mind, it feels very much to me like he sort of wants to get retribution, but in doing so gets overtaken by Lorenzo and the evil force, or Satan himself. You know, who maybe Satan had taken over Lorenzo and, you know, he's just sort of going through the motions. It's all happening again, basically. But again, this prologue text sort of negates that and says, well, he didn't go on to become some sort of dark satanic master. He just ended up sort of in a mental institution.
Yes, but also, isn't there then another stinger on the computer where it says, I am Cooper Smith, I shall return.
Yeah. So, which is a shame we never got Evilspeak 2.
No. Where he's just straight. Well, he'd be the computer this time, and I'm sure if we did, it would be some teenage girls who stumble upon a computer and be stupid, and then there's a frat party, and the evil is released. Jim, this is such an honor. Honestly, thank you so much for this.
No, same goes. Like, thank you so much for having me, and big fan of the show, and to be on a horror podcast finally. Thanks, yes, thank you.
You've done it. Tick it off. And by the time this goes out, there may not be Twitter, but just in case,
I'm on all the other ones.
People find you?
So it's Jim will paint it. That's JIMLL paint it. On my Instagram and Facebook, and I've got like a shop where I sell prints and t-shirts and stuff, which is jimall.co.uk.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, mate. And hope to get you back on again.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Cool. Take care.
There we go. Thank you so much, Jim, for ticking off one of your bucket list entries with us. It was such an honour, and I do hope you'll come back and join us sometime. Next week on the main show, we'll be getting into the festive spirit and covering the 1984 British slasher Don't Open Till Christmas. I love this film so much. On my rewatch, I just gave it 4.5 stars on Letterboxd. Yeah, so really love that one. And then at the end of this week on Patreon, Mike Munzer and Becky Dark will be joining me to discuss the snowy Canadian slasher Curtains. I can't wait for both of those. If you'd like to join Patreon and get access to a host of bonus episodes, just go to patreon.com/Stevie's Brainrot. If you'd like to follow us on the socials, keep up to date with all we have going on, just head to steviesbrainrot.com and all the links are there, or click on the links down below. Alright then, Rotters, see you next week for some festive fun. Toodles!